One day, a group of adventurers embark on a perilous journey to subdue the Demon King. They brace themselves for a battle of epic proportions as they face the king himself. Determined to vanquish the evil, Jilyu, the hero, warns the others to stay alert at all times. The team fights valiantly. However, their opponent's strength is insurmountable, and while the hero cowers in fear, Arga fights the king non-stop. He knows he needs to do something, and so, with Enya and Horn's help, he rises to the occasion. With his teammate's sword in hand, Arga charges forth and plunges the blade into the Demon King's heart, finally killing him. Jilyu watches in awe at what he just witnessed. At long last, the battle is over. He congratulates Arga, then says he'll take care of the rest. From there, Jilyu stands before the Demon King's body and declares, "I am the wielder of the hero crest. Now it's time to put an end to your era of evil." With that, he decapitates the king and asks his mate to pick up the head. Arga is hesitant about this, so instead of obliging, he mulls over the crest given to him ages ago. See, everyone in this world is bestowed a crest by God. It's given according to each person's talent and ultimately guides their life. Unfortunately, the omnipotent God created an unjust world where equality is non-existent. Because of that, only a few people were blessed with a good crest. Jilyu is one of those blessed individuals. He celebrates his party's successful quest with a glass of wine upon his return. As a reward, he is given the title of a Viscount and the exclusive knights of the territory. Arga congratulates him, but Jilyu is far from satisfied. His ambition is only halfway complete. Now that the Demon King is dead, there's nothing for him to fear. He then tells Arga a story that happened a long way back. Once, a soldier from Rosa, their country, killed the Demon King and became a hero. Coincidentally, Jilyu has the same crest as that hero. Truly, no one in this world can interfere with the hero's existence. As such, he doesn't feel comfortable letting the nobles become royalty. He sighs and goes on about how he's to meet with the king later tonight, when Arga suddenly cuts him off. "Hey, I was the one who slayed the Demon King. Okay, let's rewind. There, our guy's right. Arga was the one who fought from beginning to end. Horn and Enya did everything to protect him, while the so-called hero did nothing but watch from the sideline. Jilyu is beyond pissed by now, so he tells Arga he's nothing but his alter ego. He also reminds him of the day they received their crests. Jilyu's is that of a hero, and Arga's looks similar but is strangely inverted. Years passed, and Jilyu asked Arga to leave the village with him, telling him to let go of his reservations regarding his crest because they could tell people they were duo adventurers. The guy's basically saying that Arga would still be stuck in the village if not for him. After all he ever did was stay silent while wearing his helmet. Despite all this, Arga insists he's not an alter ego or a substitute. This makes Jilyu wonder whether his friend is cursed by the Demon King. He's usually reserved and very compliant, so it puzzles him why Arga is being stubborn now. Besides, does he plan on taking the credit for subjugating the Demon King? Then, when Arga confirms he doesn't plan to steal his spotlight, Jilyu once again reminds him that he will never be more than his shadow. If he says he slayed the Demon King, it means he slayed the Demon King. No questions asked. Everyone will believe him unconditionally simply because he bears the crest of the hero. Arga, on the other hand, doesn't even have friends. Not even Enya and Horn can be considered his mates. More importantly, his crest is nothing compared to Jilyu's. Their conversation prompts Arga to wonder if his friend has always been like this. Surely not, right? He used to be so warm and friendly. Still, he asks him if he planned this from the very beginning. Instead of answering, Jilyu puts on an act worthy of an Oscar. He frantically shouts and declares that Arga is trying to attack him. When the knights, Enya and Horn, finally arrive, he says that Arga seems to have been cursed by the Demon King and has called him a false hero. Not only that, he also states that Arga threatened him by saying, "I will kill you and be the hero." When he sees that everyone is understandably against Arga, Jilyu orders the guards to take him to jail. Arga is surrounded by everyone at this point, so after declaring he will never forget this betrayal, he fearlessly jumps out of the window and successfully escapes. Later that day, Jilyu attends a party, but instead of having fun, he sulks in the corner, thinking of what transpired earlier. He thought everything would work out the way he wanted, but since things have come to this, he has no choice but to eliminate his estranged friend. Jilyu's anger for Arga intensifies even more when Enya and Horn ask about what will happen to him. Arga this, Arga that. Why does everyone care so much about him? That said, he nonchalantly says that Arga's endgame is death. Sometime later, Arga strolls along the pier, lost in thought, contemplating his next move. Will he be able to expose Jilyu's crimes if he goes to the Momoza continent? Yes, that ought to do for now. He's about to sail when Jilyu suddenly arrives with more than a dozen knights. Sheesh, someone's not confident about his skills. Anyway, Jilyu goes on to say how he's here to apologize and not kill his friend. Of course, Arga doesn't buy any of this crap. Friend? What friend? He knows Jilyu intended to take his credit for slaying the Demon King from the beginning. With With that, Jilyu brandishes his sword and declares to kill Arga. However, before he can even attack, Arga breaks his pathetic hero sword and sails away. I'm not your shadow nor your puppet. Goodbye, Jilyu. Days pass, and Arga arrives at his intended location. Now it's time for him to change his future. Starting today, he can finally live for himself. Arga heads to a small town from there. He had a relatively easy life behind Jilyu, so he's a bit rough on the edges when it comes to socialization. Regardless, he's set on putting his best foot forward to make a good impression. He opens the gate, and there, he sees a girl who seems intimidated by his burly stature. Arga approaches her and deafeningly says, "Hi!" I'm not gonna lie. Shouting at someone you just met probably isn't the best way to make a good impression. Thankfully, Reno, the girl, has a good sense of humor. After laughing hysterically, she officially welcomes Arga to the village of Korn. She also compliments his armor and assumes he aspires to be a hero, seeing how it's similar to the ones used by heroes in Eldale. Reno then turns to leave, but is stopped by Arga, who removes something from her hair. She apologizes and explains that she got it from the mountain, where illegal dumping of nutshells has been rampant in the past few months. Of course, this doesn't bother Arga in the slightest, so instead of talking about that, he asks her to give him a tour of the area. Reno is more than happy to show Arga around Korn. She gives facts here and there, like a proper tour guide. According to her, Korn is located in the northernmost part of the Moa Moza continent. The village, she says, originally had more than 1,000 residents, but the inhabitants declined each year. Presently, it has less than the population of a small town. She also informs him of the location of the Adventurers Guild, cafeteria, grocery store, and tool shops. Unfortunately, weapon shops, the one thing Arga is interested in, don't exist here. Reno says the only weapon shop they had closed 6 months ago, and the Adventurers Guild asks the state to provide weapons for their adventurers. Additionally, quality equipment doesn't usually arrive in their village. After that, Reno shows Arga the only inn in Korn. She says it boasts the best hospitality despite its humble appearance. As for adventurers, they use the community lodging, so there's no need for them to stay in an inn. Of course, as an adventurer, Arga is used to that kind of setup. Just then, an elderly woman approaches the two, so Reno promptly introduces Arga to her. Soon, more people come to see who the armored man is. Is he your friend? Is he an adventurer? His armor is fantastic. Some of them openly say they find Arga suspicious, but one word from Reno changes their opinion. Thanks to her, the villagers see him in a good light. The two soon arrive at the Adventurers Guild, which coincidentally also happens to be Reno's workplace. She says all her workmates are kind, but the cup thrown at her the moment she enters the door proves otherwise. You idiot. Where have you been? Oh, they seem very kind, all right. The guild leader is an old lady who seems to get her knickers in a twist over the slightest of things. She then asks Arga what his crest is. It's Nomad, he says. The guild leader is confused at first, but she bursts out laughing when Arga clarifies his crest. Nomad? How pathetic. She tells him he isn't worthy of her time, and says that if his life has been difficult until now, then what comes next has no comparison. With that, the guild leader leaves. Good riddance. Thankfully, not everyone in the guild is as sour as the old woman. The moment she's gone, Bowden, one of the patrons, assures Reno that everything's fine. Despite what happened, Reno asks Arga if he wants to join the guild and be an adventurer in their village. She says adventurers from other cities refuse to come, and those who leave do not return, so it's convenient for him to stay in the inn. When he agrees, Reno formally welcomes him and introduces herself as the guild receptionist. She looks for a suitable quest, but unfortunately, due to the nature of his crest, there are limited jobs for him to do. You see, nomads usually spend their days idling about or doing other stuff. Additionally, she says those who are not good at fighting can't accept monster hunting requests. To play the part of a nomad, Arga says he isn't good at fighting. In the end, Reno suggests our boy do a nut job, literally. This, she says, is the perfect quest for him. It isn't dangerous, plus it's suitable for his crest. The task is simple. He's to harvest as many nuts as possible in the mountain, which isn't difficult considering there are a lot of types of fruits there. Despite its easiness, Arga has reservations about this quest because of the reward. According to Reno, one nut is equal to a piece of copper. Where's the justice in that? To give you an idea of how underpaid this job is, monster hunters can have an Eldale copper coin for killing a slime and 3 coins for a goblin. In the end, though, Arga ultimately accepts the job. Who knows? Maybe he'll finally be in the good graces of the guild leader after this. Reno says the demand for nuts is high because it's the leader's favorite food, after all. Just then, Darsh, an adventurer, advises him to start early, or else Reno will have to go to the mountain again. Oh, that's why she had a nutshell on her hair earlier. Just as when Arga is about to leave, he hears Reno call after him. "Be careful, Arga!" Before long, our boy reaches the mountain. He was in such a rush to get here that he forgot to ask for major details about this quest. He doesn't even know what type of nuts he's supposed to get. Whatever, he'll manage somehow. All of a sudden, Arga stumbles upon a group of adventurers. One of them, Bodon, a warrior, recognizes him from the guild and compliments his armor. He says he and his mates are on a monster hunting request, so he bids him goodbye right after that. Damn, it must be nice to have some friends. Arga eventually reaches the harvesting grounds. At first, he deems it a hassle that he needs to climb a tree to finish his task, but when he looks down, he sees dozens of nuts on the floor. So instead of wasting his energy, he decides to take the easy way out and pick up the ones scattered on the ground. Easy money, eh? Unfortunately, Reno discovers that the nuts Arga picked up have worms in them and are rotten. I know it's a bummer, but that's what you get for slacking off. He turns to leave, saying he'll head to the mountain again. However, Reno stops and asks him to wait for her after she finishes her work. The next thing Arga knows, he's being awakened by Reno from his nap on the guild's couch. He must have been exhausted from his trip up the mountains. The two then leave, and on their walk, Arga learns that Reno's crest is that of a receptionist's. The fact that she seems to wholeheartedly accept the simpleness of her crest surprises Arga. He has never accepted his crest, so seeing someone so content about having such a humble crest is refreshing to him. Soon they arrive at the inn, which is also where Reno lives. She helps Arga settle into a relatively spacious room despite its cheap price. It even has a bathtub. How lucky. According to Reno, the cost of each room depends on seasonal fluctuation, but it's usually around 5 Waldona copper coins. Corn is under the Waldona government, so they follow their currency. As such, 1 Waldona copper coin can buy 5 apples, which is half the value of the Moa Modza copper coin. Now that he understands his new home's currency, it's time for Arga to hit the hay. With that, he thanks Reno for being so kind to him. He really is lucky to have met her upon his arrival. The next day, Arga wakes to Reno's knocking on his door. "Breakfast is ready," she says. But because my man's shy, he wears his helmet first before greeting the cute girl waiting for him. She tells him she'll be waiting for him in the dining room. Frankly, Arga still finds it difficult to socialize with other people. Nonetheless, he's willing to give it his best shot for the sake of his new life. After having breakfast, Arga heads to the mountain to continue his nut quest. This time, though, he plans to approach the task differently. He plunges his sword into the tree trunk and puts force on it to cause it to vibrate. Sure enough, branches from the tree start falling one by one. Harvesting nuts in a remote area like this sure is relaxing. He could get used to this. Thankfully, Arga's harvest is acceptable this time. The one thing he did wrong, though, is he also took out the branches, which take a long time to regrow. Reno also points out how Arga brought 3 kinds of nuts. There are 5 types in total, which can be a bit confusing to distinguish, but 2 of what Arga got are fruits, not nuts. In total, he will be paid 7 Waldona coins and 9 small copper coins. With how things are going, our boy could earn 1 silver coin if he works for another hour. He's about to sign the agreement to receive his payment when someone suddenly shoves him. It's Darsh, the adventurer from yesterday. And in true bully fashion, he has 2 sidekicks who look as equally lame as him. The sidekicks tell Arga to move out of their way. How original. Anyway, this is a classic case of a loser with an inferiority complex, trying to assert dominance over someone they think is weaker than them. Darsh calls Arga an idiot for not even being able to fight monsters and advises him to greet his seniors as a newbie. Now, Arga is resolute to live a quiet life ever since he arrived in this village. However, that doesn't mean he'll let these blokes walk over him. So what does he do? He ignores them, leaves, and heads to the mountain to gather more nuts. It hasn't been long since Arga got here, but he's now used to harvesting nuts. The villagers are kind people too. All in all, his life here isn't so bad. Arga thought he'd have a hard time socializing with others after Jilyu betrayed him, but he had actually come a long way when it came to mingling with others. That said, he knows he still needs to brush up on his communication skills. He still finds some social cues to be confusing after all. Out of nowhere, a cute little girl appears behind